Okay. Yeah, so good afternoon again. And today we will talk about teaching phonology. Yeah, and nowadays phonology is getting its popularity, getting a lot of attention again. And well, both teachers and students feel that they need to, well, revise maybe the way they teach phonology. Well, they may want to, well, think of some alternative ways or some, well, updates and so on. And in our today's talk, in our today's seminar, we will first revise what phonology is, what key terminology we deal with. Then we will also talk about the difficulties that we face when teaching phonology. And of course, like identifying problems may make us feel frustrated. So that's why we will, of course, talk about the solutions, like what we should do in our regular lessons to help our students develop their awareness of phonology, which automatically means that we will help them develop their listening skills and their communication skills in general. Okay, let me share my screen with you. So first of all, yeah, as we are talking about teaching phonology today, I would like to revise briefly the definition. So what phonology is. And as you can see here, we have the two brief definitions. So first, it's the study of speech sounds in a particular language. Well, the second definition, it's the study of sound patterns and their meanings, both within and across languages. Yeah, and this is a very important remark that, well, these are patterns and their meanings, not only within one language, but also across languages. We will actually get back to this idea a little bit later. Teaching phonology, we deal with some key terms. And I would like to hear from you, Jan, and can you please write in the chat box some key terms? So what we actually teach, what we, the other way around, learn, yeah, in terms of phonology. So can you please write some key terms? So I will write, so I will show the first one for you. So this is phoneme, or a unit of sound, a minimal unit of sound. Okay. So any other terms? So yeah, hello. Yeah, so phonemes. Anything else? Okay, so we're greeting each other. That's great. So then let me also share some more ideas with you. Yeah, and well, if you have something to write, some, well, terms, I will be very, very happy to see your messages. Okay, so of course, when we teach phonology, we teach sounds. And then sounds is an umbrella term, very general term. Sounds means that we need to be aware of consonants, vowels, diphthongs, then schwa and shwi sounds. Yeah, schwa, do you know what schwa is? Schwa is this short sound, yeah, like in the word computer. And shwi, oh yeah, so I have the word schwa twice. So like the second word is shwi. I will write it in the chat box. It's okay, yeah, the most common sound in English. Yes, I agree. So, and shwi sound, it's like a short e. Yeah, short e, like in the word very. Well, good. And well, surely we need to be aware of the sounds and we need to distinguish between the sounds. Also, sounds have their own characteristics, yeah, like vowel sounds may be short or long. Then syllables, yeah, stress, word stress and sentence stress. Then intonation, and actually sentence stress and pauses, yeah, rising, falling intonation make like the whole picture of our utterances. And last but not least, it's connected speech. Yeah, connected speech is actually maybe the crown of the phonology terminology, because practically speaking, this is something what students really struggle with, and well, we may be making them aware of sounds and like word stress, but we definitely need to work on connected speech in order to make sure that our students can communicate, can listen and understand what they hear, and so on. Okay. Well, no, these are key terms. Of course, like if we dig deeper, yeah, if we study phonology thoroughly, like we do at universities, then of course there will be a longer list of terms. Yeah, but well, this is like the key terminology. And as we are talking about teaching phonology today, I would like to hear from you, and I see that we have more participants now. Yeah, we have already greeted each other. Can you please share what you find particularly difficult when you are teaching phonology? So can you please write your ideas in the chat box? So what you find particularly difficult when teaching phonology? Maybe some sounds, maybe some combinations, maybe something else. Can you please share your experience? So what is particularly difficult when teaching phonology? Yeah. Okay, guess this lazy afternoon has not energized you yet. Well, okay, thank you, Svetlana, thank you. Yeah, sounds which are made by the combination of TH, yes, because we don't have the sound in the Russian language system. Yeah, that's true. And students all over the world tend to mispronounce these sounds. Okay. Well, what else is difficult? So maybe not only TH sound, but also the sound W, yeah, which is made by the letter W. Okay, so there is a comment from Olga. Then, what that? Okay. Yeah. So, like, what do you mean, by the way? I'm just addressing this question to both Svetlana and Olga. Do you mean that students find it difficult to pronounce these words, or they find it difficult to recognize and like distinguish between these like two words? Mix up these words. Okay. So like when they produce their utterances. Okay. Yeah, sometimes they also find it difficult to identify the sounds. Yeah. Okay, good, thank you. Then let me also share some ideas, like what we may find particularly difficult when teaching phonology. And the ideas which I'm going to present today, they are a little bit like global, let's say. Yeah, and thank you for sharing some particular cases. Okay. Oh, I see. Yeah, because they often produce that instead of what. So then they can also make spelling mistakes. Okay. Okay. Thank you. So some students can't pronounce these sounds. Yeah, and we need to teach them how to articulate the sounds correctly. That's true. Especially when we teach low-level teenage or adult students. Like children don't usually find it difficult. They pretty easily copy sounds, but when we teach teenagers or adult learners, then yeah, we need to teach how to pronounce them. Good. So then what we can really find difficult when teaching phonology. So yeah, so first I would agree with you. Thank you, dear colleagues, for sharing your ideas that the first problem is the problem with separate sounds, especially the ones that we don't have in our mother tongue. So second problem, pretty common, is that students find it difficult to deal with connected speech and dealing with word clusters. You know what happens like when they do listening tasks or when they just communicate. Yes, it does not necessarily have to be a classroom situation. They may be listening to a pretty, long talk, and they can easily get lost. For instance, they cannot identify the frames of the words or frames of some collocations. And as soon as they get lost, they cannot get back to it, and they do not understand what they hear, and they lose interest and motivation. So that's why this is one of the problems that we face. Then the second issue is accents. Yeah, so accents. It's a trend now. We'll talk about it just in a few seconds, minutes, okay, about it, that modern course books provide this diversity of accents, and some students first are not ready for this, like they're morally not ready for this, because they expect that they will only hear native speakers, especially British English, yeah, but they get exposed to a variety of accents. Well, and the third problem is pace. So pace of the talk, pace of the speech. They like cannot sometimes first produce some speech pretty quickly. Yeah, and second, when they do some listening tasks, they cannot even, catch what is being said. And by the way, pace and like how quickly we speak, how much we hesitate, and so on, it affects, for instance, our final grade at some international exams. Yeah, so we definitely need to be able to speak quickly. Well, let me also double check the chat box. Yeah, one more message. Yeah, sounds p, t, k. Okay, wrong pronunciation, although it's not so important in terms of school curriculum. Connecting R in there is, and other cases. Yeah, linking sounds. Yes. Not even necessarily R sound. Yeah, not linking R. So there can be other linking sounds. Yeah, and then, yeah, if they cannot identify it, then they get lost. Well, and you see that, as I told you, so nowadays students get exposed to a variety of accents, yeah, and so they also speak with their own accents. And nowadays in our modern ELT community, I guess, especially in Russian ELT community, we have like two big directions, two big groups. Those who want to have very beautiful British accent, like to sound British or to sound American. And the second direction is the people who criticize it. Yeah, so it's like we talk about native speakerism. Like we do not necessarily have to be native speakers, and we do not necessarily need to have pronunciation of native speakers. Yeah, and in general, like this second direction and the approach to teach and approach to learn in the language has changed significantly. I mean, like this big approach, not just like some methods or something more tactical, but I mean something global. Yeah, and nowadays English is no longer like second language or foreign language. Nowadays English is a lingua franca, is the language which is spoken around the world, the international language. And of course, as it is spoken by, if I'm not mistaken, by about 2 billion people around the world. Can you just imagine this number of people? And of course, the majority of them are not native speakers. And that's why it affects the way we learn the language. And of course, it affects our reality in which we communicate using English. And if we follow like this idea, if we want to integrate this idea into our teaching, then we should remember that, we really like, will definitely criticize native speakerism. And the idea that the best teacher is a native speaker is not true. Yeah, I don't want really to go to the other extreme. Yeah, so of course native speaking teachers are great. Yeah, and well, just teacher is a job. Yeah, and we need to be qualified. We need to love what we do. But anyway, so we can get good awareness, good knowledge of the language, even with local teachers. Yeah, and one more thing which goes hand in hand with this concept of English as a lingua franca is that we need to rediscover phonology and actually rediscover our approach to developing listening skills as well. And you know that in some books, we can even have some lessons on it, lessons on English as a lingua franca. And let me show you this example. It's from the Voices, the brand new course book for adult learners by National Geographic Learning. And there you will see the examples from the upper intermediate level. So what we can see, like in this level, in Unit 2, if I'm not mistaken, you can see, a lesson on, on this. Yeah, what we can see. So like it's a listening task. So students are supposed to listen to a podcast. And in this podcast, the speaker, the girl, is sharing her experience in learning languages and in the approach to learning languages. And in particular, she says that first, she really wanted to have a good British accent, and that her idea was, her belief was that English is spoken only by native speakers, and like this is the like the best option to learn from them. And then so later on she says that her traveling, her work experience really showed her that there is a real diversity of accents and people, and learning English is really great because it's really a tool for international communication. So, and here you can see the tasks to this podcast, giving some food for thought and some follow-up, like reaction to the podcast. And the students are supposed to express their attitude and share their learning experience. And so as you see, this trendy thing, this trendy concept has already become part of the content of a course. Well, then one more interesting thing, and I hope that it will also give you some food for thought, is like different like approach or different attitude to teaching listening and automatically developing students' awareness of phonology. So here you can see an extract from a blog post by a fantastic, really fantastic author and speaker who is unfortunately retired now, and he just doesn't really want to participate in any event. But his contribution to it, to the way we deal with listening and phonology, is really great. So his name is Richard Caldwell, and what he says, he claims that so like listening itself, teaching listening is dominated by testing. Yeah, and in our course books, we have tasks which are aiming at checking how well students have understood something, how well they have like dealt with the information. Yeah, and it is, I would say it's true. Yeah, we do not very often have the tasks when students need just to listen and say, for instance, what they remember. Yeah, or listen and identify 3 things, for instance, which they agree with or disagree with. Yeah, so it's a different focus. Yeah. Then also he says that there is almost no work on teaching decoding word clusters, decoding, identifying frames of words and phrases. Yes, just something what really causes problems and difficulties. Well, he also claims that textbook recordings are underexploited. Yeah, and you see that he mentions recordings, not even scripts. Yeah, I guess that when you teach, and I can say that when I teach, especially so some time ago, that was one of the most common things that I would do with listening tasks. So I would just provide scripts to my students, and then they would do some follow-up vocabulary work on it. Yeah, but Richard Caldwell says that we definitely need to pay more attention to the recordings. And last but not least, he also claims that there is an over-reliance on strategies. Like we develop listening strategies, but we do not develop students' awareness of phonology. We do not develop just this positive attitude to listening. Yeah, we do not experiment a lot with that. Yeah, and so Richard Caldwell runs, he used to run actually his blog, Speech in Action, and there you can find a lot of interesting ideas and ready-made materials and ready-made activities. By the way, well, I will send you a link to the Padlet, and we have created a special Padlet. It's a board with shared materials. And later, like after our seminar, I will post all the materials that I have been using today and all the things, all the links which I mentioned, including a link to Richard Caldwell's blog. Yeah, so I hope that it will help you, yeah, and that you will have a chance to dig deeper and to have more discoveries. Yeah, great. Yeah, thank you. Well, and then as you see that he criticizes it, yeah, and he says that there should be different focus and different approach to teaching, listening, and phonology. Yeah, and that's why we need to find some ways out. Like, what should we do? How we can do this? How we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone? Yeah, develop listening skills and develop students' awareness of phonology. And the ideas that he suggests. So, what we can do? So, less testing, more listening for pleasure. Yeah, including extensive listening. Yeah, and so when students do extensive listening, when they listen for pleasure, they realize that it's not that hard. Yeah, and even if they misheard something, they will not be penalized, they will not be graded. Not just they listen to what they want. Yeah, and it can really help. Of course, teachers are sly foxes. So, and we may say that, yeah, you do it just for pleasure, but and assign them with some tasks. Yeah, for example, listen to to a podcast, listen to an interview with your favorite celebrity or whoever, and write down a few words that you would like to share with the class, or some words that you would like to remember, and so on. Then we definitely need to be able to identify word clusters, yeah, and word and chunk frames in this connected speech. And we need to develop students' awareness of phonology in general, on intonation, pauses, rise and fall in intonation, like intonation patterns, then sentence stress, and so on, and well, develop their ability to decode the chunks. And we will talk about, well, these ideas, like some practical activities. Then one more idea, which I really like a lot. It's pretty hard to do, it's time consuming, but it's worth it. So word mining done without a script. So what it means that when your students do some listening tasks, yeah, after they have done the task itself, they have done some comprehension tasks, then you may ask them to listen to the audio again. They don't have any visual support with a script, for instance, and they need to listen and take notes on language. And as usual, word mining may have different types of focus, so they may need to write the words or some phrases which sound different, like when you pronounce them slowly, when you pronounce them separately, they sound totally different. Yeah, and maybe they can write down the words that they want to remember, or maybe new words, whatever the focus. Doesn't matter, because it does matter that they do it using the recording, not the script. So, and also, of course, making use of editable scripts, like working with texts, but in maybe in a different way. Yeah, for instance, so students may need to do some gap fill task or sentence completion, or maybe some, well, other exercises. And well, you see that here we have a few ideas, a few like directions, and in the chat box, can you please write something what you would like to try out with your students? No, like this is number 1, number 2, 3, and 4. Like which ideas you would like to steal and try out with your students. Okay, number 1, thank you, Tatiana. Yeah, relaxing your students. So just listen for pleasure. Okay, thank you. 1 and 4, good, thank you. So, well, would anybody like to do word mining without a script? Oh yes, Svetlana, you. Olga, okay, good. Yeah. My message to you is don't be afraid to experiment, and don't be afraid to fail your experiments. Yeah, so like when I tried word mining without a script, like using the recording, it was very hard, really very hard. And for my students, it was a totally new task. And it took some time really to realize that it's fun, it's very useful and very helpful. Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing your ideas, good. And by the way, I will also post this presentation on the Padlet, and you can get back to these ideas again. Well, then practically speaking, teaching phonology, we need to make sure that our students have a variety of of tasks, of activities to do, so that they get aware of all the, levels, let's say, of phonology. And the first step is that students need to be aware of sounds. Yeah, so you mentioned it in the chat box at the beginning, saying that it's well, a challenge for your students, so that they just sometimes cannot pronounce sounds and cannot recognize these sounds. Okay, then there is a question. What students do listening for pleasure when they listen to English songs, or we can't take it into account? Why not? Yeah, we can, of course. Yeah, songs, podcasts, videos, TV series. Yeah, anything. But they do it for pleasure. Yeah. Okay. Then if we get back to the idea that we should develop students' awareness of sounds, then we have some ideas, some ready-made ideas, ready-made solutions. And let me show you some examples from the Voices series by National Geographic Learning, and they will be extracts from the elementary course book, upper intermediate, and pre-intermediate. And so the first one is from the elementary book. Then they have a box, clear voice. Usually these are just short, brief tasks to do, but there are some comments like how you can go further, what else you can do. But at least like it's brief work on pronunciation, which is really, really helpful. Yeah, so at the elementary level, as you see, students get aware of how to pronounce some consonants together. Yeah, so this is the unit when they learn present simple, negative forms, and here is the task, and here is like the information box with some brief follow-up. Then one more example from the upper intermediate level. And so here they learn how to pronounce weak forms, in particular weak forms of auxiliary verbs. Here is the unit dedicated to like revising key grammar, and in particular asking questions. And they get aware of it. Maybe they will revise it. Maybe it will be something totally new for them, but that's a very interesting task. And really, I can say that for students, this particular task is something interesting, because they say that at this level, like they don't expect this to happen, but even at upper intermediate level, at higher levels, sometimes students feel reluctant to speak. Yeah, and we talk about some psychological language barriers just because they're not sure how to pronounce words. Can you imagine that? And they say that it's a very good chance for them to revise it. Yeah, and also weak forms are part of connected speech, and sometimes when they do listening, they still can find it difficult to recognize the forms. One more idea, one more task for this level, how to pronounce sound r. Yeah, and as you see, there is a very nice comment. So I deliberately have this, this extract here. However, don't worry if your r sounds different to how a first language user might pronounce it. Yeah, so like our r is different. So, and they say that, yeah, okay, we should definitely, with the clear voice, we should be aware of it. We will help you learn how to pronounce it correctly. Yeah, but if something goes wrong, that's okay, because English is a lingua franca nowadays. Yeah. And one more example, it's actually not just developing awareness of sounds as such, it's more about developing awareness of connected speech, and this is the extract from the pre-intermediate level. And as you can see here, the students will learn how to understand fast speech. So how words change, how words sound differently when they are pronounced together. And then there is a brief task, like there is a short exercise, and then they get back to the main thread of the lesson, but they get more focused on how they pronounce things. So it's really great if you have some ready-made ideas. And as you see here, we don't have like separate, just separate pages on phonology, or we do not focus on pronouncing only sounds, but there is this good diversity, like sounds, some examples of connected speech, which is really, really great and very helpful. So there is one more idea, one more activity, which I really like practicing with my students. So these are tongue twisters. And tongue twisters, can also vary. So they can be short tongue twisters, long tongue twisters. And the first focus is sounds. We teach students how to articulate sounds in words, separate words. Then the next level, we teach them how to deal with sentences. And the key to success, like how we can really say a tongue twister quickly, is to mind all the necessary pauses, mind intonation patterns, and then you will be able to pronounce them quickly and properly. For example, so the first tongue twister, which is here, helps develop students' awareness of sound R. And well, you can see it, and then you may try saying it. The next one, sound th and them. So students really find it difficult to pronounce it, and well, challenging, but they really enjoy it. And you may have a shorter version of it. Well, as I told you here, we do not only practice how to pronounce sounds, but how to deal with connected speech. Then this one looks very, very short, simple, but it's not that simple. Very well then. Like V and W, two sounds which are very, very often confused. And then, like your favorite the sound. One more. So when I write this tongue twister to my students, they think that I will never stop. They do stop. And when I teach offline, I have like cards with tongue twisters, and we usually begin lessons with tongue twisters. Again, doesn't matter which level my students have. They all enjoy it, and we do it like for the first maybe a couple of months. And then after that, as it's part of their routine, they don't have problems with articulation, with pronunciation. Okay, the hit of all the time since she sells seashells. Oh, yes, that's true. I also have it. Well, then this one, linking sounds. Linking, okay, everybody knows, but what about N and ND? N and ND's anniversary is in April. Like we pronounce it quickly, we connect all the sounds. Really, I strongly recommend you to use tongue twisters, and it's fun. It doesn't take a lot of time, but you kill a few birds with one stone when you practice tongue twisters. Can you please write a plus or yes in the chat box if you practice tongue twisters with your students? Let's see what the statistics is for us today. Okay, sometimes. Okay, thank you, Tatiana. Okay, so sometimes, thank you, Maria. Okay, often. Great, rather often. That's good. Like, judging from my experience, it's really important to do it at the very beginning of the course, especially when we have like low-level students. And then later on, like maybe 2-3 months later, they don't need it because they no longer have these problems. Okay, good, good. Love, so you love these examples. I'll use them with your students. Okay, thank you, thank you. Good. Yeah, really, like there is a big choice of tongue twisters on the internet, and you may have your own collection. Well, then let's move on. And the second step, the second level is that students need to be aware of word clusters. Yeah, and they need to be able to identify word or chunk frames. Then there is one technique which really helps get your students aware of it. It's drilling techniques. Drilling happens after we present or introduce new target language, like either new vocabulary or new grammar, and we need to make sure, like drilling itself, if you look at the definition, is just itself is the technique which is listening to a model and repeating what is heard. Model can be provided by the teacher, by the recording. So communicative teachers, they claim that we should model standard language, standard English. That's why it's better to use recordings. Yeah, but lingua franca says that, like the concept of teaching English as a lingua franca says that, okay, so there can be a variety, a diversity of accents. Well, so at this stage, we want our students to make sure that they pronounce like new vocabulary appropriately and new grammar structures as well. Drilling new language doesn't mean that we should drill only one word. It will not help. Yeah, so drilling should be the tool which helps students learn that like one word or like one structure will sound different in connected speech. So first, just let me briefly introduce some types of drilling. So they can be a repetition drill. So teacher says something, students repeat after the teacher. Substitution drill, when we substitute some information in the model. Yeah, for example, teacher says, I go to work, he goes to work, yeah, she goes to work, and so on. And then one more type, question and answer drills. So the prompt is a question, the response is the answer. On the Padlet, there will be a few links to them, to some articles on drilling techniques, and you can read more about it. And drilling is really fun. As we need to make sure that students can identify word clusters, yeah, and they should be aware of the fact that words will sound differently in connected speech, then we should of course, experiment with drilling. Yeah, so adding some information, having some extension to the sentences, substituting some pieces of information within the sentence, so that it first makes sense. Of course, like this is like the rule number one. And then second, provides these examples, yeah, of connected speech and showing how this particular word cluster, like this grammar structure or words collocations sound in connected speech. Yeah, yeah, by the way, yeah, drilling is something very traditional. When I was doing my CELTA back in 2008 and Delta in 2009, so I first actually learned about drilling techniques and teaching communicatively. Drilling is very important, but then later on it was criticized a little bit, because maybe because the teachers were not aware of this, diversity of drilling techniques, because drilling was taken as just, repeating after the teacher, which is not true. Yeah, and so drilling was a little bit, abandoned, lost and forgotten. But now it's gaining back its popularity, and both lexical teachers, communicative teachers, yeah, they are rediscovering drilling, and they claim that it's very important. And what about you? Yeah, please put a plus if you drill target language with your students. Yeah, plus or yes if you do drilling with your students. Very good. Thank you, Olga. Okay, good, good. Thank you. I'm very happy to see pluses. Yeah, and I hope that yeah, you provide a big variety, yeah, of drills, not just repetition drills. Okay, good, good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your responses. Well, and the third level of difficulty when we teach phonology is well, the need, the necessity to develop students' awareness of connected speech. Yeah, maybe this is like the most difficult part of it, because it affects development of listening skills, and it affects development of communication skills. Yeah, because when we are communicating, yeah, and we are not very good at listening, we are not very good at phonology. Yeah, then of course, applying this communicative strategy to interrupt our partner, to ask for repetition, yeah, of course we will apply it, but to what extent? Yeah, so if we need to do it every time after each sentence, then of course we will, you know, get desperate about it. Yeah, but we don't want our students to have those bad feelings. Well, let's see what we can do to help our students be aware of connected speech. So first activity, and I think that I very often mention it in my seminars, in my talks, is shadow reading. Yeah, I guess that you know what shadow reading is. Yeah, if I explain it in a very simple way, then it's when your students listen to an audio, short extract from the audio, and they have a script in front of them. So they listen and repeat after the speaker, or they listen and read after the speaker, and they can be 1 second behind the speaker, or they can do it simultaneously. Yeah, but doing this activity, students will copy well, how to pronounce sounds. They will copy intonation patterns, and they will definitely develop their pace. It does help develop their pace. And it's really very beneficial. Students like it. Well, you can use any materials to do shadow reading. This can be materials from the course books, or extracts from the recording that they have listened to as part of their lesson. Yeah, or there can be some podcasts, interviews, whatever, really. By the way, yeah, getting back to the idea that we should encourage students to do some extensive listening for pleasure. Yeah, that can be a follow-up. Yeah, you choose randomly so just some materials that your students were using, and then you do shadow reading with your students. Then working with scripts, yeah, so noting down the language or doing word mining with them. With the recording, not actually with the script as such, or combining it. Yeah, for example, students may have a script and they may listen to the recording again and underline in the text. They should underline the instances of connected speech, underline so some well, examples in the sentences, when words were pronounced together and they make one big word cluster. And that's very useful work. Really, it's pretty time consuming, again, to be fair, but it's really worth it, really. Well, and it can be done as a follow-up to the listening tasks, or maybe it can be just a listening task for the students. Well, and last but not least, one of the ideas, it's a disappearing text. Yeah? So have you ever heard of it? Disappearing text. Yeah, yes, no. Okay, you can write it in the chat box. Yes or no. Okay, okay, okay. So I will. Good. Yes, no, no. Oh, okay, I will show it to you. You know that this activity is really good and very, very convenient to do when you teach online. When you teach offline, it's also possible, that's okay, but it requires some preparation. So what you can do, like, for instance, there is an extract from the text that students read in the lesson. You can write this text on the board. You can use just the shared board in Zoom or Miro board, whatever tools you use, doesn't matter, but they look at the text. Students read this text. Yeah, you can ask a few students to read this short extract with beautiful intonation, helping them. Yeah, if you have a recording for the text, so this is the elementary book and there is a recording, like you can actually play this recording so that students get exposed to the model, yeah, of this text. So students practice it. Just a few students read it aloud with beautiful intonation and so on. And then after that, I hope that I will be able to show it here. Yeah. And then you do the following. In each line, you delete or you just cover one word. It doesn't actually matter which word it is. Okay, I will use different color so that you cannot see it. No, only black will help. Yeah, like this, for instance, crossing out adjective or just do it randomly, doesn't matter. Yeah, and then you ask your students to read this text again, of course, pronouncing the missing words. And what is important is that they need to have to read it properly, to pronounce sounds correctly, and also to mind the intonation patterns. Yeah, and pronouncing the missing words as part of connected speech too. Yeah, and then like you can ask a few students to do this, then like second round, you delete one more word from each line. And you know that finally you may have just, only lines and occasional words on each line, and students will be able to say, to read the whole text with a very beautiful intonation. And it's it's a kind of a drill too, by the way, but you do it in a more creative way, and you really help your students both like memorize new target language. Yeah, and also it helps get them more aware, better aware of phonology and all the features of phonology. Yeah, and well, I hope that, well, you will try it out with your students. They really enjoy it. It's really great, and it's a very helpful task itself. Well, then, as you see, today we have been talking about teaching phonology, yeah, like what is particularly difficult about it and what we should do, which practical ideas, practical activities we can suggest. Yeah, thank you very much for sharing your ideas and your experiences. It's really great. I'm always very, very happy to hear from you, to read your responses. Thank you very much. Yeah, so here on this slide, you can see how you can get in touch with us. So our email address, and our YouTube channel. And our page on VK. Yeah, and well, the link to the Padlet, so I will send it right now in the chat box so that you have it. Yeah, if you miss something out, you can send us an email and we will send it to you again. Yeah, so thank you for your feedback. Thank you very much. It's really nice to hear from you. Thank you. So enjoy your lessons. Don't be afraid to experiment with and sometimes on your students. Yeah, and well, hope to see you again. Thank you. Bye-bye.